Well, welcome to Destination Freedom. We're going to get started with our call tonight. So we got a couple minutes, but I thought that would get good to start on YouTube. If ever you want to join us, more interactive, you can go to the DestinationFreedom.org website, and then you can just check out the front page. It'll give you a link to our live weekly call, and then you can come in. So even now, if you're live here, you can go to DestinationFreedom.org, and there's a link there. You can come into the live chat, and then that way I can hear you. Because on YouTube, I think I'll be able to see some of the chat. You can type in, but we can't interact, unfortunately. But that's why these things work. So be sure to like and subscribe. That's helpful. I don't know how that's helpful, but they say it's helpful. You always hear those people online that'll say like and subscribe. So that's why I'm saying like and subscribe, so that I can fit in. But we'll begin at the top of the hour. It's just a little bit before 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Normally we do these calls on a Wednesday night, and I was a little under the weather, so we're doing it tonight. We'll see if anybody comes on, and this will work out great. So what we do is we'll do an hour dealing with state versus federal citizenship, any Q&A about that, anything about our passport process and how we help people eliminate their income tax liability and such as that. That's what we'll handle in that first hour. The second hour, we're going to deal with being unemployable, and in that we're going to do a thing that's called your work from public to private. Now, this particular video we will end at the top of the hour, or just before that 8 o'clock hour, and then I'll go live again. Hopefully that'll work out, and I'll go live, and then we'll do another video with the next topic of the calls, which is your work from public to private. So that's kind of fun. And again, I'll go into that a little bit more later on, and it'll make sense to you, hopefully. And so just stand by here, and we'll get going shortly here. So hopefully that'll work out. So let's see here. Yeah, we're right at the top of the hour, and there's nobody in on our call yet. But sometimes people drag in. And here's the other thing too is I just emailed this out tonight, late this afternoon, because I found myself running behind. Actually, I didn't know if I was going to come on because I wasn't feeling very well yesterday, and I'm still a little under the weather. But I thought I would trudge on and do this anyway. So it's kind of wild. There's nobody on, so I'm like talking to myself. So that's kind of cool. But you might check this video out later on after we're no longer live. So I'll just get into some of the frequently asked questions with respect to state versus federal citizenship. So now we have a class. I'll talk a little bit about the classes that we have available. If you want to understand who has an income tax liability, if you want to understand how the federal income tax is constitutional, we'll show you that on in that class, state versus federal citizenship. And all right, looks like someone's in. That's good. Well, welcome, Rodney. It's good to have you in on the call. But anyway, it's kind of different. I mean, once you look at the Constitution and see what it empowers the federal government to do, you'll see that they have a lot of latitude, even within the Constitution. So there's those limitations in the states, but the federal government is coming out of the District of Columbia into the territories and so-called. But here you'll be able to see that the federal citizen and the alleged resident alien, they have those income tax liabilities. And so That's one of the things we deal with. What's interesting is a lot of people just don't realize that there are two types of citizens in the United States. There are federal citizens, and the State Department and the IRS determine that citizenship based upon the 14th Amendment. That's what the paperwork says. That's what we have for facts and evidence. It says that they determine U.S. citizenship by the 14th Amendment. Now, the Constitution of the United States has a section in Section 4, Clause 2, or Section 2. It says, the citizens of the states are entitled to all privileges and immunities of the citizens in the several states. Those are state citizens. Okay. And that Constitution, when it was created, made, predates the 14th Amendment. So just so you know, before there was a 14th Amendment, there were state citizens, and those citizens were loosely called U.S. citizens because they were citizens in one of the states. There was no federal citizenship at that time. The federal government, or the United States, as they call the federal government, had not created a citizen at that time. There was no power delegated to the federal government in Article 1, Section 8, that they had the power to create citizens. It wasn't until the 14th Amendment that they did such. And those first black Americans, those slaves, if you will, that were coming out of slavery, they became those first statutory citizens at that time. Now, usually people would be called Americans over the years and into the 20th century. And in the 1900s, you began to see the IRS was created, and the income tax, as well as the central banking. All that was tied in there. And the federal government began to not refer to people as Americans. They began to refer to them as U.S. citizens, and graying their citizen with, people that are living in the states. So most people don't realize that there are those two types of citizens. Now, that federal citizen and those that are resident aliens, as the tax code says, have an income tax liability. Okay, and the Constitution in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. That's the part of the Constitution that gives the federal government exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever. That's pretty broad. In the District of Columbia, to write statute and code that governs them. The Code of Federal Regulations fall under that power that the Constitution is granting these representatives that are in the District of Columbia. So that's where the power is for the federal government to write that federal code and federal statutes that governs that. This is why the federal government does have the power by the Constitution to regulate firearms in the District of Columbia, those federal territories, and the U.S. 14th Amendment citizen. And so that's the power and so they're governing their federal, their U.S. citizenship. Now, interestingly enough, is that anybody who's a tourist that comes into the United States or into the states by way of airplane or however port or what have you, all of them fill out paperwork, and they are coming in and residing in the United States, the District of Columbia. So on paper, all these tourists and all these people that get visas are getting visas into the District of Columbia. That's why they create a tax liability for them. And yet all those people may not even live or work in the District of Columbia, but they are doing it on paper and they're signing those things under penalty of perjury. That's what's creating a tax liability for them. So we recognize that, and of course the IRS and the federal government recognize that as well. Because, when you talk about immigration is not a power delegated to the federal government. How do I know that? Because in Article 1, Section 8, which Section 8 is the power that's been delegated to the federal government, the word immigration doesn't show up in there. But in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, they have exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever in the 10 square mile, that's that District of Columbia. And that's where they are immigrating on paper. And so that's what's happening. And that's how it makes sense And that's how they're able to do that. Now, usually the federal government is able to do what it does in the states because they offer the states money, and with the money comes the regulation and the control. And so the states are addicted to that, and that's how they that's how the federal government comes into the states all the time, by permission of the legislature. If you check into your state and you find out how much federal dollars balances your state budget, you'll know that the federal government is in the state that much. And there's a number of organizations that want to secede from the union. I promise you, no state will vote to secede from the union as long as the state itself and the people are on the federal dole. They get federal benefits of some sort. They're not going to separate from that. And I'll tell you, any state that does decide to reject the federal government out of their budget, then they don't even have to secede. They'll kick out the federal government in such a great way without even having to secede from the union. Then all the interaction the federal government does in the state will be there by the Constitution, and they'll have limited power. Only the power that's been delegated to them, like the post office and other things that Article 1, Section 8 says. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. But it's not likely that'll occur. It's not likely, when you're talking about the District of Columbia, that anything good's going to come out of there. Hey, yeah, we just had that primary here in New Hampshire, right? Yeah, that's great. So glad things are going to change now. Not likely. Frederick Douglass says, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. Find out what people will submit to, and you'll have found the exact amount of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue until they're resisted with either words or blows or with both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance in whom they oppress. And so Americans have a very high endurance level. They can put up with a lot of crap. Yep, they can. Take a look. When the American people finally get outrageous, and they get sick and tired, and they cut themselves off from the federal teat, then those people in the District of Columbia, they will turn and serve the people. But as long as the people don't know or care about what's right or what the Constitution says, or that they aren't part of the federal dollars that go out, then it's going to be more of the same, and until the banking system collapses, which it's on its way to do. So hope you're prepared for that. So anyway, I did want to open up questions, and it's interesting is our we shouldn't be surprised, but if we have any questions that you want to type into the chat, I'll be sure to answer them. If you have questions about state citizenship or our passport process, you can ask, and I'll be glad to answer those. So want to talk about some of the classes that we have available. We have a state versus federal citizenship class. That class is going to tell you and show you from the tax code who has that income tax liability and whether that's you or not. And that's exciting. And we get into the tax code, we get into the principles of liberty and freedom. It's really an empowering class that helps you determine whether or not you want to embark on that journey. It's not for everyone, but it's easy enough for children to understand. It's not difficult, okay? And so we make that available in that class. Once you have taken that class, then you can take a passport workshop, which we have available, and it has all the templates and all that for how to do your passport process as a state citizen, okay? And there's no... interestingly enough about that is there is no state citizen passport itself. It's the application that you're doing the passport as. And so anyway, that's what you're changing, not the passport. It's a federal passport. Welcome to the call, Jared. Glad that you're on. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and type in the chat, or if you want to open your mic and ask me, I'll repeat the questions back to them on the I'm live right now on YouTube, so if you ask a question, I'll be sure to do that. The question is, does the military occupation of 1933 go hand in hand with the conversion over to the 14th Amendment citizen? Or in other words, can you claim to be a 1933 citizen? I don't recognize a 1933 state citizen. State citizenship was not created by the Constitution, okay? There were citizens in the states before there was a federal government, before there was a Constitution, okay? The states, those 13 colonies, they're the ones that wrote the Constitution. And so there were state citizens before 1933. So, but with respect to your question, so what does 1933 or the occupation of military, what actually is or what is supposed? Sometimes it doesn't show up for people, and so I don't reckon. Sometimes people have done things that are dead, and so their actions and such don't mean that I have to go along with those beliefs or even those statute and codes that they may put together. Okay, when you're dealing with a government by your consent, in the sense that you're the powerhouse and allegedly your representatives are in the Congress, the power isn't the other way around. Like they're doing things and then we have to do what they say. Now the federal citizen is subject to the jurisdiction thereof, as the 14th Amendment says. So that is a limitation in that capacity. So I hope that makes sense to you. But the state citizenship would have been referenced. It wasn't created by the Constitution, but it was referenced in Article 4, Section 2. So when the federal Constitution was ratified, was like the 1787 or something in that capacity. That's when it's referenced again. There was nothing in the Constitution that created any type of citizen. There were already citizens in those states. And so that's the kind of state citizen that we're referring to in our processes. I did want to mention that we do have, so once clients will do the passport process, whether we do the full passport process for people, which is, excuse me, is, I have a mic here too, so I'm live on YouTube. So that was a terrible thing. I should have some sort of a muting button, but I got too many mics going here. So forgive me for that. But anyway, once the passport process is done and you have certified copies of your passport file from the Secretary of the United States, then we have other workshops that support you with respect to when you're doing driver's license, so that it's congruent with your passport process. And then we have with W8 and W9 workshop, which deals with paperwork that when when you're contracting with a company, you're going to be able to give them the proper tax documents so that they can pay you and such as that. And so we have those documents on there as well. So, and then we have we have a IRS 1445, which is like a real estate transaction workshop. And what that does is that helps you understand that in a real estate transaction, they're asking for a tax ID number. It's the same as any company asking for, oh, I see the problem. I apologize for that. Well, that's a bummer, huh? Golly, Jared. That's why you left, was because you saw there was nothing in there. So yeah, we have a live go-to meeting here, and I had forgot to click the microphone. So they're just seeing my lips flap. No, they're not even seeing my lips flap. That's good. So everything that I said over the last 21 minutes is not on. I hadn't even started recording it. So let me just do this here in a second. Well, there you go. So just to let you guys know that if you do have a question, I'll just be sure to ask it in the chat, or else you can hit your microphone. I'll repeat the question back to the people on YouTube so they can hear it, because they're not hearing what's in my headset. So I haven't worked that technology out. I have to get myself. We have some openings for people to be involved with Destination Freedom, but they do have to be clients. So you'd have to do these processes because we can't have federal citizens working to free federal citizens. You know, that'd be like having a plantation where you have slaves and you're in the business of freeing slaves with your slaves. So we don't do that. But so yeah, well, that's my bad on that. But anyway, but we actually we have a discount right now, and if this is recorded, then we may not have it if with respect to if you're watching this on YouTube. But right now we have a discount for our trusts. They're normally $3,000, and we're giving a $500 discount for those right now. We just have a couple of those left in this particular discount. And then we also, our full passport process is $1,800, and so we have a $300 discount for that, and so that's a pretty good deal for that. We do all your paperwork for you. There's a lot of phone time, and we help you. If the State Department writes to you in that process, we will take care of those responses and things like that. Someone says, will the public-private start at 8? Yes. The second half of our talk tonight will begin at 8 o'clock. So we'll see if I have enough data to hand out in this part of the hour. If we don't have a lot of questions and all that, then we'll terminate this first hour and we'll come back on the 8. I don't know. It'll be okay. If we finish up this hour, then I'll create another live call at 8 o'clock, and we'll go live again, and it'll all work out. So anyway, some of the things coming up. I did that. I attended and was a part of that relationship workshop. That was a very rigorous training down in Austin, Texas. Now, when I tell people that I went to Austin, Texas, they always ask me if I got to meet Alex Jones. But no, I did get a chance to hang out with Alex. I don't think he knew I was in town. I didn't have much time. But I did get to hook up with a couple clients. One of our clients flew in from Southern California. Actually, it was Montana he flew in from. And so we got to spend some great time together. He attended that workshop called Breakthrough. So that was good. And then afterwards, I got a chance to hang out with a client that lived in San Antonio, and he came up, and we had dinner together. It was a very nice time. So, if you have 10 of your friends that would like to do a live state citizenship class, you can pull that together. And what we'll do for you is we'll do your full passport process as if you have 10 people to do the state citizenship class, we will do your full passport process at no cost to you. So that's one of the ways that we can give back to some of our affiliates. Really, so you wanted to be where? You wanted to be in Austin, Don? Or where was it you were wanting to be? So Don texted on the chat that he wanted to be there. I'm not sure where. Are you talking about in Texas? Tejas? So, oh, that's cool. Well, look, give me a buzz, and we'll talk about that. And I'm sure they'll have one planned. And again, I stayed in the Holiday Inn there. It was pretty nice. That's where they'll do the workshop. That was a nice time. I'd be glad to talk with you about that. So make it a point to call me on my cell. If you don't have my cell number, then you can just email at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org. And we'll get my cell phone to you, and we can talk, unless you're the Don that I know. The Don, Spanish Lord. Anyway, but that was very good. And then coming up in February, hopefully I'm going to be able to speak, but I'm going down to Acapulco for Anarchapulco, which is a freedom conference down in Acapulco, Mexico. That sounds great. So anyway, so that's coming up in February, and so I'm looking forward to that. And the good thing about that is I'm able to travel with my son. He's an adult, and so he and I will be able to head down to Anarchapulco, and just enjoy ourselves. There'll be some downtime for me, and yeah, so that's coming up. So I'll have a lot of work to do between now and then, which is actually in about a couple weeks or so. I'm not sure, a little more than almost a couple weeks, and so that'll be a good time. So if you get a chance to go down there, that's definitely worth it. There's going to be a lot of people. I'm not really interested so much in the conference per se and what it is that they're promoting. And most things that you would catch there, you certainly can catch online, many of the speakers and such as that. But what I enjoy when I go there is just meeting the people and hanging and talking and chit-chatting and all that. To me, that's great joy. And that's the reason I'm there, is for the social connections. So I'm looking forward to that. I did hear that Mark, the gentleman does the Lighthouse Law Club, that he wasn't feeling well, that he was under the weather. So if you know who that is, be sure to reach out to him and see how he's doing. But that was sad, and I'm going to follow up on that and see how he's doing. He's a client and a friend, and he's been down there. So maybe, I don't know if he's going to make it that way today or this February. So that's that I'm looking forward to. So we'll see if I can hook up with him at that part. I'm trying to see if we have any more questions on that. What else is going on? Oh, so the other thing that we have a discount on are our foreign irrevocable contractual trusts. And those are normally $3,000 for the creation of those trusts. And that's, but we have a discount, a $500 discount for that. So that's available right now on the website. And you can go to that, to the DestinationFreedom.org website and check that out. And reach out to us. If you have questions, you can always email us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org. So that's some of that. And in the next hour, we're going to get into that, your work from public to private, and do some real practical things in that. We won't be doing, it's not the workshop that we're doing, but it's going to be, we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to handle in that, and then we'll put that together and plan probably a Saturday, and then and get into that. Now, again, I'll talk about that in the next hour. So this time was set up for answering any questions that you have on state versus federal citizenship, the lifestyle of a state citizen, and it also is for any of our passport process or our classes or anything to do with the website. So we're coming down to about a half an hour into our live feed. So what we'll do, if unless we have somebody come on or someone asks a question, what I'll end up doing is I'll end up the live, this video, and it'll be a short video, and then I'll go live again at the top of the hour. So I'll do that, and on our go-to meeting, I'm just going to I'll leave the venue open, and I'll just take a break, and they'll come back at the top of the hour, because I don't want people to lose that. So, oh right, just as Indiana Jones grabs his hat from underneath the door closing. Are the 2024 DS forms up yet? Great question. I have to say that they're not. I have them all done, and so I have to upload them. That's what my intention, which what they say about intentions, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That was supposed to happen by the first of the year. And then we had some funky weather in New Hampshire and had a lot going on at home. And so I hadn't got to it takes a lot for me to get into the back office of the website and to upload all that stuff. I had a guy doing that stuff for me, and now I have to do it on my own. So I have to figure out how all those documents are done. So that was on my plate for today, and that did not happen. So it is a paramount part of my schedule to get that done. So it'd be great if I do that, get a chance to do that tonight, or it'll end up being tomorrow. But those will be uploaded to the Passport Workshop, and then you'll be good to go. Those will be current, so that's good. I'm glad that you mentioned that. You can text me, Jared, and I apologize. That's bad. So you can text me, and and just to poke, but I apologize for that. That's my bad. Yes. Okay, that's cool. Did you want to ask a question? Uh-oh, here it comes. Okay. No, it's all good. Yeah, I've heard that before. That's right. We the people, right? The question. I'll say that for the live YouTube. The question was that one of our people on our live call had said that he had heard an interesting consideration about the Constitution, that in the preamble it says, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union," and so some people believe that it was we the people of the government, if you will, or those people in the United States, if you were, in order for them to form a more perfect union, but that we create this Constitution for the United States of America. So you can see those those distinctions. I remember hearing that. The only problem I have is that sentiment is, you'd have to find that sentiment written somewhere, or that interpretation or belief from founding documents, to where you could say, oh yeah, this is where they were. Because would you agree that it's somewhat, it's disclosing somewhat of a conspiracy? Yeah, I mean, really, when you think about it. Yes, the take. He writes. Yes, the take was that they are elected legislators from each state versus U.S. Versus Anthony in 1873. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. But no, I get that sentiment. Listen, my humble opinion is to repeal the Constitution, send the bastards home. Americans are so duped into thinking our union is somewhat sacred of some sort. Listen, I'm of the opinion, make America states again. Screw the union, send those bastards home. Listen, I promise you there's no such thing as draining the swamp. You can drain the swamp in your own life. That's enough. That's in your power. But nothing's going to change the amount of money and corruption that's in D.C. Listen carefully. Nothing is going to change the money and corruption that's in D.C. There's no president that's going to be selected that's going to go to D.C. to end that. It's not going to happen. The only way that, like Frederick Douglass says, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. So without a real insurrection, nothing's going to change, And so, and just so you know it, an unarmed insurrection is not an insurrection, So that's just crazy talk. But anyway, and I wasn't involved with any of that stuff there. It's useless. And listen, it's good to demonstrate. You learn about stuff. You see who's with you and all that. But demonstrating produces nothing. Those people in power love that stuff. Look at them. They're out there. Aren't they cute? Nothing changes that way. Power concedes nothing without a demand. So I'm going to look that up. U.S. Versus Anthony. 1873. Yeah, that's cool. I'll check it out. Well, that's cool. Any other questions with respect to that? Yeah, I'll get on that, Jared. That is a priority, and it's been too long in getting there. I should have been done before Christmas, but I can't go into explain just how my schedule is playing out these days. But that still is not a founding document, is it? Right. And it's interesting. Your good point that you make, and people should realize that just because the Supreme Court rules on something doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, look, they ruled on Roe v. Wade, and then all of a sudden they turned it back. So it doesn't really matter what court cases are. A court case binds only the participants in that case. And when the Supreme Court rules on something, listen, the Supreme Court's not a legislator. They're only there to uphold the Constitution. And so it's a farce. Why do I say it's a farce? Well, because look, any ruling that's 5-4 means nothing. Because 5 of them think that something's constitutional or it's not constitutional. And the other 4, the losing side, is either right and the majority are communists and they're going to do this or whatever. So I'm of the opinion that the Supreme Court has to be unanimous. Because if it isn't unanimous, then somebody either isn't upholding the Constitution or somebody doesn't understand the Constitution. End of story, full stop. It isn't sort of this is our understanding and it's a majority rule. That's just wrong. And until the legislatures, not only in the U.S., but legislatures in the state, when they begin to impeach judges based upon their unwillingness or their ignorance of the Constitution, nothing's going to change. There is no check and balance. That's just a fantasy fairy tale. So until that happens, till there are real men actually elected that are going to do something, and let me just qualify, real women, that are going to stand for truth and things like that, nothing's going to change. So I don't have much hope for it. So I dismiss whatever DC's doing, and it's nice to pull out of the federal zone and not be one of their citizens. That's a real joy. So anyway, so that's some of that. Any other things there before I cut YouTube loose here? So, all right, those on YouTube, so stand by. We're going to go live at the top of the hour, and that'll be cool. So stand by, and we'll be back on there. You and the go-to meeting stand by too. So hold on, let me see how I'm going to do this left hand. Let's see.